New sponsor alert. Well, this episode of the Jig Is Up Podcast is brought to you by Loot Crate, a monthly mystery crate that delivers the best in geek and gaming gear, from collectibles, apparel, gadgets, art, and other epic gaming gear. So basically, it's like Comic-Con in a box. So be on the lookout for Comic-Con as well. You can save 10% on any subscription. Try lootcrate.com/the jig is up. Enter the promo code BRIDGE10 for 10% savings. That is BRIDGE10 and get 10% off. Now, Shadi, let's start the show.
SoundCloud music.
Where Mark at though? Where Mark at though?
Off the bell, that's all I can say.
When Rudy calls.
All right. Welcome back to the place where nothing is safe.
Nothing.
Woo woo. This is episode 21.
We are all grown up now.
Legal.
Mama, we made it.
Yes. And you know me, I'm your host. Yo, it's Marco. And your boy M-Easy is not here right now because
Handling some business.
He's taking.
he got the
shit.
BGs. But we got Kenlin filling in for him for a little bit.
Yes.
Go
It's
ahead.
your boy Kmart, aka Six Man again. Damn, I feel like J.R. Smith right now. AKA Mommy, he did that. AKA, you know what it is.
You got to give him that JR pipe. Well, anyway, Nessa, go ahead.
Oh, it's your girl, Ms. Nessa, a.k.a. Blasian Mommy.
All right. And then we have a San Diego legend in the house.
Whoop, whoop.
Prominent promoter, master marketer. You know what I'm saying? I my introduction pales in comparison with this man's accolades have done for the city. None other than Big Los. Woo!
Hey.
What up? I don't know about all that shit.
There's
but,
Mark.
Oh, M-Easy
The
just
shit
started
has
right
left
here.
the
Guess
building.
who's back? M-Easy from the toilet.
Hey, smell his hands, man.
Did you
Smell
wash
his hands.
your
Hey,
hands?
watch
Substitution.
Substitution. That
Substitution.
tag team.
When you got a friend in need. All right. So also, I just want to let people know that because I'll go ahead and cover this one.
What up, everybody?
There he is. He's back. This
He's
episode is also brought to you by FreshBooks. FreshBooks is the easy-to-use invoicing software designed to help freelancers, small business owners to get organized, save time, invoicing, and get paid faster. So get a 30-day free trial at www.gofreshbooks.com/the jig is up. That's another one for all you entrepreneurs out there. So anyway, and before I'm getting into the nitty gritty with my man Los out here, I just want to let people know, if you're listening to us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher Radio, Google Play Music, or even just listening to us on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe, leave comments, follow us, all that shit. We appreciate it. Interaction is key. So let us know how we're doing. Also, we're trying to get to a podcast convention out there in LA in September. We're trying to raise $2,000 for, expenses like hotels and all that shit to cover for that. So we can, strippers too.
Shout out to LA.
Can't forget the strippers, right, Los?
True story.
But anyway, so you guys go ahead and hit the webpage, thejigisuppodcast.com, and then click on the donate tab right there, and you feel free to donate however you want to donate, how much you want to donate. Everything's appreciated, and the proceeds will go to that, and anything exceeding the amount will go towards studio time, equipment, and strippers, like Lo said.
I'm with it.
Good call.
All right, Lo. So, man, you're a native San Diego through and through, right?
Born and raised.
Born
in
and
San
raised.
Diego.
So, technically, I'm a transplant because I was born in Michigan, but I lived in San Diego since I was 3.
Mhm.
And, man, you have a lot of history. I mean, earlier you were talking about this venue where we record was a bakery, right?
Yeah, it was a baking building. I believe it was called the Snowflake Baking Company.
Snowflake Baking Company.
Mhm.
That's crazy.
Man.
Man, so when was that? Like in
In the 60s, 70s, and then in the 80s, it just became an empty warehouse. A lot of transients coming in and out. They had little bars on the corner, but Then the motorcycle company Ducati moved in on the corner, like right on the side right here where 6th Avenue is. I'm sorry, not 6th. Where
Was it G?
F Street?
Or
Oh yeah,
F
G.
Street.
Yeah,
G.
G. Ducati moved right there, and they were bringing a lot of business, and this side just seemed empty until they put in the tavern next door, and then it just kind of grown, which is interesting because I love old buildings, so I'm glad that they were able to refurbish this one.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. So tell us about your upbringing, man. When you know, coming up, you know what I'm saying? Like I remember as a kid. I mean, you were telling me things back in the day, like, man, Marcus, I don't like working hard. I got to find ways to work smarter.
Not
You know what I'm
hard.
saying?
Yeah,
you came, you know,
right.
you grew up you went to a school not too far from where my parents lived out there. What's that? It's almost by Crawford, but it was another school.
Twain East.
Twain's, yeah,
It's a continuation school.
continuation school.
Mhm.
But
So
look at you now.
I went to 4 different high schools. I went to Morris, Twain East, La Jolla High, and Garfield.
Shout out to Morris.
Shout out to
Yep.
Morris.
So I had actually a pretty high GPA. It was a 4.1. I was actually taking
Nice.
college
Bruh.
courses my senior year.
That's what's up.
Right. The problem with me is that I was a really good student, but I was a better fighter.
Hmm.
So, you know, like I was quick with my hands. A lot of people thought because I was big that I was a gump, you know, because they think big guys are just dorks.
Uh-huh.
And, that was the wrong case with me. You know, they think we're slow, and, you know, when you give them one right in the face, they're like, I was just kidding.
Psych.
Let's talk
Yeah,
about
have-
this. That's
So-
how it is.
So yeah, you know, born and raised. It's funny that you said that because a lot of the stuff that I grew up with, I've actually turned a lot of negative into positive. I grew up in a middle class home. Both my parents worked. You know, as a latchkey kid, both my parents went to work. So me and my sisters, you know, we got home from school. We were by ourselves, so we took care of each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but when my parents got home, they were there and they were the guardians of the house and, you know, loving parents. But you know, you learn to be independent. You learn to just do things on your own, and that kind of set in with me. So as I got older and I didn't let a lot of things or a lot of people push me around because I found my independence at an early age. So it's funny that you said that, you know, about entrepreneurs, because I always made a joke that I created a category for Mexican entrepreneurs. I used to call us entrepreneurs.
Shout out to
Damn.
man. Shout out to all
Yeah.
the Mexicans out there.
Yeah, you know, doing your thing, you an entrepreneur.
Right.
Hey man, y'all hustle, man. Y'all got the oranges, y'all got the roses on the street corners. You know what I mean? Y'all,
Paletas, you know, corn,
Door to
whatever,
door.
bro. You know,
Door to door garden.
we're selling it, you're buying it. So,
man, y'all work really hard. Y'all really do work hard.
so
And what would LA, San Diego would be without Mexicans? You know what I mean?
yeah, you know, it's just a thing. You know, California was originally owned by Mexican. You know, by
Exactly.
Mexico.
Yeah.
So, you know, but in that being said, like you said, it's not that I'm afraid of hard work. Again, my father, who is somebody I've always looked up to, he's been a hard worker his whole life. He was a welder at a company called NOSCO. So he built aircraft carriers, warcraft, oil tankers. When the Valdez hit that rock and it had to leak all over the ocean, I actually got to see the boat and actually saw the piece of the rock that had gone through 2 feet of steel. So it's amazing to see how nature doesn't give a shit and would rip through anything.
Right.
So I learned that again at an early age, that no matter how thick you are, there's something that's always going to get you if you ain't looking out.
Damn.
So my dad, again, being a welder, he used to come home, hands all pockmarked, face all burnt, because he was, you know, half an inch away from the welding pipe. And I admired him because he took care of his family, but it also put it in my head. I'm like, that's not how I want to work. That's not who I am.
Yeah.
Even though, as you know, I mean, you guys can't see me, but I'm 6'2", 300 plus pounds. I'm built for labor. I have the strength for it, but I refuse to do that because that's not who I am. Not all Mexicans are laborers. Not all of us do certain things.
Let them know. Talk
Right.
that shit, Los.
Well, that's
Let
the
'em
thing.
know.
As a promoter, the first thing people, when I say, oh, I'm in nightlife, they're like, oh, so you're a security guard? Yeah, you know, because of my size. And they used to crack me up. I'm like, and half the time I would just tell them yes, because I got tired of having to explain myself.
Right.
And when they would see me in front of the club, they'd be like, oh, what's up? Look, the security guard, right? I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, can you get me in tonight? Yeah, I heard Pitbull's here tonight. Oh, man, I'm only the guard. I can't do nothing.
Yo,
Go talk to her, which was Jeanette, my assistant.
yeah, I remember Jeanette.
You know, and Jeanette used to just like laugh her ass off, and she'd be like, why don't you just tell them who you are? And I'm like, because I don't know that person. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, fuck them.
You know, if they want to think I'm a security guard, I could care less if they thought I was a janitor. Either way, they're
Right.
paying to come in. So it doesn't matter to me.
Gotta let them know.
Yeah.
Shit, man, you gotta pay to play out here in these streets.
Absolutely. You know what I mean? That's the other thing. You know, I understand that, you know, you have to take care of certain people. I mean, that's what the industry that we're in. You know, you scratch each other's backs, wash each other's hands. But at the same time, when you're putting on shows, or even when you're doing something like this, like you just said a little while ago, you're looking, you know, for a sponsorship to go to LA, you know, to be a part of a podcast. that's money at the pocket. That's money you're raising, and that's
Yeah.
awesome because you're looking to do something bigger.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with the nightlife. If I'm bringing a celebrity talent to the venue and I'm trying to make San Diego to the next level and raise the bar, and I'm paying $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 for this artist, and you're telling me, hey, can you hook me and 10 of my friends up? Then how am I going to make my money back and then be able to bring another artist if you want to come in for free all the time?
Right.
Exactly.
So, you learn and grow from those things. You still got to take care of certain people because those are the ones that are going to spend money once they're inside the venue. But at the same time, you learn that people are just your friends while you got something for them. And that's one of the biggest lessons I learned is that when I got out of the game and I stopped cutting checks, I lost a lot of my so-called friends, which was a blessing.
It's all the blessing in disguise. As my man Zach say, you say more goodbyes than you say hellos when you get older.
Right.
And that is like the realest thing ever. You know what I mean? Just like going through my growing pains outside of nightlife. You know what I mean? Like 'cause I used to do a little promotions back in the day.
True
So,
story.
True story.
Shout out.
See, I got a vouch from Big Los, motherfuckers. But yeah, man. I always want to ask you, man, because I know you brought a lot of celebrity talent out here in San Diego. Not many people know that. And who was the most difficult? I don't know if you could say it because of
No,
legality.
I can say it. I don't care.
Oh, okay. Who was the most difficult celebrity
Savage.
that you was like, oh, this motherfucker's a pain in the ass?
Busta Rhymes.
Busta Rhymes?
Yep.
Damn.
Dude.
Why is that?
He broke my heart because I've been a fan of his music since Leaders of the New School.
Oh my
Seeing a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
That's how far back I would go with him.
Track, man.
So, here's the funny thing. I love hip hop. I love rock. I love everything. I'm eclectic when it comes to my music. But Busta Rhymes he just had a dope style, the way he would rap, how fast he could go, his lyrics. He was just sick. And when I finally had the opportunity to bring him to San Diego, he was just an asshole.
Damn.
He was just arrogant. And, in all my productions, I have a videographer following me around and recording the venue and my activities. Because, I would do a minute video, to market, my brand.
Yeah.
I mean, so we had the camera not like directly in front of him as he was getting out of the limo and coming into the venue. But my camera guy was at least 10 feet away, just recording him getting out the car and coming in. And then he stops, looks right at the camera guy, and is all, hey, shut that shit up. Get the fuck out my face. Says it just like that. And I was like, well, he's with me. I'm the promoter, and we're just chronicling tonight's event. And all he did was just give me a dirty look. So I kept it cool. I'm like, maybe he's having a bad night. You don't know people's
you
problems.
never
You don't know
know.
their life.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, he's tripping a little bit when he gets inside. I put my hand out and I say, man, you have no idea how excited I am to meet you right now. And I told him like a fan, like a kid, dude, I've been listening to you this long. I admire your music. I followed your life, the way you came up. And I think it's dope that, you're still out here doing it. You're still making hits and you're still making people smile and you're just an entertainment. And I appreciate that about you. And, and it seemed like the more I was complimenting him, the more I was bothering him. And I could see it in his face. And it started hardening me up, and then I was like, I'm going to let it go. And once we got him into the venue, he was doing his thing. And his security guard, you want me to tell the whole story?
Dude,
Yeah.
Okay.
got
this
time.
nigga's up. Nothing is safe. Let it out.
So
Please do.
he's in the VIP area. We have to get him on the stage. His security guard says, hey, do me a favor, stand behind him. We're going to walk him to the stage because they didn't want people jumping up behind him because as we're trying to get him to the stage, people are trying to get a picture with him. People are trying to, shake his hand, whatever. So we just want to get him on stage. So I stand behind him because we were packed that night and the guards were all around. I'm like, dude, I can walk with you. That's not a problem. So I'm literally walking about 3 feet from behind him. He's walking ahead of me. And as we're going down the ramp towards the stage, he stops, turns around, looks at me, and then makes his face, and then turns around again and starts walking. So I start walking again behind him. Then he stops, looks at me, and waves at me like to go past him. So I walk up to him because it's loud, and I say, your security guard asked me to walk behind you so that nobody jumps on behind you and make sure you get to the stage all right. And then he's all, well, then stop walking so fucking close, man. Give me some goddamn space. Yeah. And I was like, I'm like 3 feet away from you, bro. Relax.
Yeah.
And, and he's all like, and then he just started staring at me from top to bottom.
Well, you sizing you up.
Yeah, and where I'm from, you do that. You're
Yeah.
telling me what's up.
Yeah.
So I look right at him, and I was like, I'm the promoter tonight, right? I paid $15,000 to have you here tonight.
Ooh.
You're not doing a full performance. You're coming up on stage. I appreciate the songs that you may do, but I paid to have you here. Like, you don't have to be my friend, but, you could at least
Do business.
be polite.
Yeah.
Be cool.
Be cool, man.
And he's just staring at me.
Still?
So finally I lost it. Again, I grew up Southeast, Paradise Hills, and I ended up in Camo. So,
Yes.
like, again, that it just kicked in. And I could tell that I was about to do something bad because of the way my wife was looking at me. Because I could see her in the VIP area, and she's like shaking her head like, don't do it, and I'm all too late. So I looked right at him, and I said, you know what, man? You keep staring at me like you want to do something. And he's just looking at me, and I'm like, go ahead, G. There ain't nothing between us but,
An opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. I told him just opportunity. And then his guard started walking up, like he was going to do something. And I said, if you take another step, both of you guys aren't going to walk out this motherfucker. See all those people right there? Those are all my boys. You're in my city. You're visiting my town. This is my venue. I am the promoter. What part don't you understand that you guys will get hurt in this motherfucker and I'm going to walk out of here with no problems?
Damn.
and they're both just looking at me, and I'm like, let's do business. Turn around. Let's go on stage. So Busta Rhymes was like, all right, motherfucker, and walked up on stage, got up on stage, and I still have the video clips where he talks shit to me.
Wow.
He goes like this, I appreciate everybody being here, da-da-da, but fuck that dude over there.
No.
I ain't performing, this and that. But then he started rocking the mic. The crowd was hyped, and he did his thing, and he killed it. And then after he went back to the VIP area, and I was heated. I didn't even watch the performance. I went to the back office, and I was just, I just like was pissed. And, my wife came back there, and I'm all, what, just let me be. I'll be cool. Go out with your friends, have a good time. And then I could hear the performance, and then I was just back there texting my assistant, making sure everything was on point. And then about 15 minutes later, his manager comes back and says, hey, we're out of the bottles. Busta wants to know, he wants this and this bottle. And I was like, okay. No, I actually just said, all right, not a problem. So when I sent the bottles, I also sent the bill.
Hey.
So the manager came back and said, hey, we're supposed to be comped. I already comped your bottles. You want those extra 2 bottles? It's going to be $350 a piece plus tax and gratuity. So those 2 bottles going to run you about $750.
Damn.
And he's all, hey, man, that's Busta Rhymes. I'm all, you guys did your performance. I gave you the bottles. You filled your part. I filled my part. You want more shit? Buy it. You want anything else from me? You ain't getting nothing. Bye.
Yeah, because they disrespected
Absolutely.
you. Like,
So then I took it to another level. I called the limo driver and I said, hey, don't come back.
yo.
Damn. Find your own way home,
Yeah,
motherfucker.
I pretty much, he had to take a taxi to the Omni Hotel.
Hey, at least the Omni's
That's
nice.
what's up.
At
Yeah.
least the Omni's nice. So it's like right down. You did a good hit
Yeah,
down.
Hey,
it
that's
was a
what
straight
you
shot
good.
down from
Straight
on
shot
Broadway.
down. Exactly.
But yeah, like I canceled his driver and I called the driver. I said, if you want your money, don't you dare come back. So he's like, you don't want me to pick him up? I'm like, no. Well, what if his manager starts calling me? And I'm all, if you pick up that phone and you pick him up, then have them pay you because I'm not paying you nothing.
Damn.
So then he's like, all right, good night, Los. See you tomorrow.
Damn,
I'm going to sleep.
Yeah, that's gangster.
Turn my
But for
phone
real
off.
though, like because you're a man before anything. Despite the
Yeah.
fact that he's an incredible performer,
Absolutely.
you look up to him as
Legend in the
a
hip-hop
legend in hip hop.
world.
I was a
The
fan,
thing
man.
is, like, I'm still a fucking man. You're a man. Let's be cordial and handle
we're
things
human
accordingly.
beings at the
You know
end
what I
of the
mean?
day.
And
You
I think,
bleed like I
and
bleed.
as that old saying, like, may your idols never be your rivals. But sometimes that shit happens. You know what I mean?
But see, that's the funny thing is, for me, it was like finding out Santa Claus wasn't real. You know what I mean? As an
Yeah.
adult.
That's heartbreaking.
Because I've seen him in so many interviews and shows where he was humble and just, polite. And I've seen him at other performances like at House of Blues. And he just seemed like a real cool guy. And I don't know if he just had an off night that night or maybe he didn't like me or who knows what it could have been. I mean, I know for damn sure he doesn't remember me. I mean, he's done so many shows and events. I doubt I'm even, I've never crossed his mind ever again.
Yeah.
But for me, it sinks in because I was a fan.
Yeah.
And every time I see him, I still enjoy his music.
Yeah.
But always in the back of my mind,
You
I
can't.
think
You can't.
like,
So you'll never
Yeah.
do business with him.
Oh,
never
oh,
again?
absolutely not. I would never, bring him on to another performance. Even though it's business and I shouldn't take it personal,
Yeah.
I'll never put another dollar in his pocket for me.
Yeah.
Would I go support a friend of mine that brought him out? Absolutely. Because I'm supporting my friend.
Yeah.
But would I pay to go in? Absolutely not.
Dude.
Bro.
I also want to ask you, dude. It's been a long time.
Since I met you.
I know, right?
That was a bad LL Cool J.
Feel it. Dude, what happened to the dub shows, man? San Diego used to be on lock, and I remember you
Yeah.
had an epic birthday weekend. But that was
Yeah,
like
we had
years
Warren
ago.
G, Vita Guerra. I've actually done a couple of dub shows.
Ida.
And then the one with Rick Ross. I was actually one of the first people to bring Rick
Yeah, I
Ross.
was there at that one.
Yeah.
I was there too, man.
Yeah.
It was dope.
You were the first dude who brought. Weren't you the first dude who brought Drake out here?
First one to bring
Boom.
Drake, Usher, Pitbull, a bunch of artists, and also, reality show people.
Let them know what's up.
telling you, man.
It's funny. The first talent that I brought to San Diego, the one that actually got me out of my financial debt when I was in my 20s, that turned my life around as a promoter, was Too Short.
Too Short.
Todd.
Wow.
I brought him out to a venue called L5 where Hard Rock stands now. Before
Oh,
that, it was
okay.
called Tantra Sutra, and it was before that it was a brewery, and then it became Tantra Sutra, and it was doing horrible. So then they turned it in. The guy that owns the Cohen Group, that owns like all the restaurants, like Corvette's Diner, Prado, Sea Level, Island Prime. So he bought the building and he turned it into a venue called L5. And the same thing with Flux when it was Aubergine. He owned both those buildings.
Those were the days.
So it was owned by David Cohen.
Aubergine.
And he took a manager
was my
named Jamie
spot.
Familo from on Broadway, and they turned it into L5. Now, the reason it's called L5 is guess why?
Why?
It was on the corner of 5th and L.
Nice.
So L5.
Yeah.
So that was like when house music was still getting big. So on Saturday nights, it was crazy with house music. And it was the only after hours venue in San Diego. It was open till 4 or 5 a.m. But of course, California, you can stop serving liquor at 1:30.
Right.
But either way, you know, like people would go out there and party, and they didn't really do hip hop. And I went in with a proposal, and they let me in. And they're like, I was killing it in the back room. My hip hop room was always packed, and the house room in the front was slow.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Hey, would you consider doing shows?" And that's how I met my first connect with certain shows. I'm like, "Well, what do you think?" And he's like, "Let's do this, that." And I'm like, "Let's do Too Short." And he's all, "Too Short, man. He doesn't do anything anymore. Like he hasn't had a hit since like 80 whatever."
It
And I was
doesn't
like, and I'm
matter.
all, "It doesn't matter, bro. Like people will come out."
You had the vision
and I'm all,
already.
he transcends barriers. You know, everybody loves him. White, black, Asian. Like he's just people are fans of his music. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it was cheap at that time. It cost me $4,000. You know, 3 for him, and then a grand for the transportation and the hotel.
Yeah.
That night he made me $36,000.
God, what
Yep.
a hustle.
Yep, we made $36,000 that night. So the door made a killing. We were packed, like we were turning people away. I was charging $100 at the door at one point. And this was before bottle service. Anybody did
Damn.
bottle service? So we were like, you know, but the manager at the time was trying to do it. So he was just selling bottles for like random. Like he's all like, "Oh, you want a bottle? $400. You want a bottle? $150. You want a bottle? $700." So
Man.
you know, everybody, right? So at first when he was selling a bottle, he was selling like, "Oh, $100." But when he saw that people were paying for it, he's like $300, $400, and people weren't saying no. So I was like, I was just watching him, and I was like, okay, well, I'm getting a percentage of the bar, so I'm cool with that. I'm gonna do whatever you want. So, and
Damn.
that's basically how it really started for me. Was that night? I remember going home that night, and I had a backpack full of cash because back then we kept the money. There wasn't checks. You know, we were paid
Yeah.
out in cash. Whatever we made at the door, and then whatever was made at the bar was paid to us in check, and that was only like, you know, $2,000, $3,000. So majority of the money was made from the door.
That's crazy.
Man, yeah, you know, and it's funny. I had a backpack full of cash, and this is the first time I had gone home with money like that. And I remember just like laying in my bed and just thinking of all the things like I was gonna do with this cash, and my common sense kicked in and said, "Get out of debt, dude. Don't
Yeah.
buy a car. Don't buy this.
Build
Be
that
smart.
credit.
Be smart." And I
Exactly.
did. I got myself out, and I started turning that into a bankroll. With that, I started booking more.
You
talent.
invested.
Yeah,
You
I started.
invested,
Yeah, reinvested in my
reinvested.
company.
Flipped it.
You
Right.
guys hear that, audience? You hear that worldwide? He got his money and he invested into some other ventures. So
Right.
that's how
Let's
you
just
do
hope.
it.
I
Too
saved
short,
$6,000 and I
listening.
bankrolled it. So I started bringing in other talent, you know. So we started, you know,
jewels.
like back then before Biz Marquis got on that kid show, you know, Yo Gabba Gabba. I brought him out.
yeah.
So I brought him out, and this is before he was doing his DJing set. He was actually still performing. You know, I brought Eric B and Rakim. You know, I started just bringing out like
Dope.
shows that were really cool. And it was packing the venues, and you know, it was pretty dope because it was something that really wasn't being done in San Diego yet.
Yeah. And I remember in your 20s, you talked
Pioneers,
about
yeah.
working for MTV for a little bit.
I worked for MTV for 6 years as a casting director. I started, so I worked at Z90, which is a local radio station,
Yeah. They're still around.
right? But at the time, it was called the California Radio Group, and they were owned by a gentleman by the name of Victor Diaz. And his wife was actually more rich than him because she came from the Salsa Tequila family. So she used to receive a check of $16,000 to $24,000 a day
Damn, son.
in residuals from tequila sales. And I'm
Damn.
not kidding when I say it on a daily. Yeah.
That was back.
Yeah, so this was
Yeah.
at, yeah, this was back in 95, 96. You know, so she had money. So anyway, so he owned the radio station for fun. Like it wasn't even really a business for him; it was for fun.
Wow.
And
it had to be for
so
fun.
if you look back at the original Z90 pictures, you'll see it because this guy you could tell they had money because if you look at their marketing materials, like their cars, like the buses,
Yeah, I
you
remember
know,
those
one of the
big ass
you know,
buses.
right? It's 250 grand. One of them, the other one was 750, and the last one was almost $1 million. The blue bus.
Wow.
Yeah, it was almost $1 million
Dang.
because it had a lot of people
Had
that.
a
For those
house
of you
in
that
it.
never saw the inside, it had marble floor, Italian leather, all.
Hold up,
bedroom.
marble floor?
Yeah, it had marble floor.
The fuck?
Yeah, everything was imported from Italy or Argentina or Paris, France. But
Damn.
the bus was actually it wasn't a Van Tool. I forgot what it was. But it was brought from Sweden, built in the United States with a Detroit diesel because they had to send the bus here in parts like Lego pieces, and they built it here in the States.
Wow.
So Devin Scott, who was the driver at the time, actually had to go to Colorado and drive it to San Diego because that's where they built it. And I remember, like, back then there was no texting, there was none of that stuff. So when I talked to him on the phone, he's like, "Dude, this bus is gonna blow you away.
Wow.
It's amazing."
Man, I bet.
And I was like,
That's
"Come on,
dope.
what can a bus be like?" Yeah, when I saw it, I was like, "Dang, I know where we're going with this bus."
That's a house bus.
Yeah, so
Is that bus
so
still here?
the reason I brought up Z90 is because I was at one point I became a driver for them. I started riding in the bus, and then the guy that was running the bus program said, "Hey, would you like to drive the bus because we're gonna lose a driver, and I'll pay for you to go to school if you want to get your license." I said, "Yes." Yeah. So to this day, I still have my Class B passenger endorsement. I never let it go. I always renew it.
Right.
It's a good trade to have.
Yeah, absolutely. Because now with everything going on, you actually have to get like federal clearance on certain licenses now because, you know, what's going to keep somebody from just driving a bus into the traffic or
Yeah.
whatever. So they do serious
into a
background
building.
checks now. Back then, they really weren't doing it, but now it's like everything.
Mm.
So anyway, one day I was driving the bus and this promo got canceled, and I told my boss, I'm all, "Hey, instead of parking the bus, why don't you let me drive it around San Diego?" And back then, downtown wasn't as big as it is now. There was only about 4 or 5 venues: Ole Madrid, Blue Tattoo, East Street Alley,
Blame it,
For all you youngins out there,
Papa-
man.
Papa Jack's. So yeah, there was only a few venues in
You
San
youngins
Diego.
out there don't know about that.
Right.
So
Do your Googles.
So I was driving through downtown, and then I see this huge line of people, and I'm like, "What the hell is that?" And I drove around the block, and it was a one-way down on East Street, and I saw that it was, I guess, a nightclub. At the time, I didn't know it was East Street Alley.
East Street Alley.
Right.
So
So I pulled the bus right in front, and I parked right there in the front because they had a valet, and it was all white loading zone, but I was away from the valet, and the bus being 40 feet, you know, I was taking a good chunk of it up. But the reason I parked there is because that line was so long, and I was advertisement, you know,
Yeah.
it was good promoting. And this guy came out in a suit, and he says to me, "Hey, what are you guys doing here?" I'm like, "Oh, I just got the bus parked here, man. You know, this is good advertising for the radio station." He's all, "You're driving this bus?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's all, "You're kind of young." And I'm all, "Yep, I'm 20." You know? And he's all, "Man," he's all, "Can I take a look?" And I looked at him. He's, you know, white guy at the time. I didn't know he was Italian, but, you know, it looks like a white guy to me. I'm all right, man.
Yeah, they get
If
really
this guy tries
offended
something
about
funny,
that.
I could knock, you
Yeah.
know, if he tries something funny, I'll choke his ass out. Not a big deal. So I'm like, all right, man, let's go check it out. So I showed him the bus, and again, it was the blue bus. So he was like,
he was
"Oh
in
man, he's
love.
like, this bus is so sick. Oh my god." He's like, "Hey, if we pay you some money, would you drive me and a couple people around? You know, just kind of hang out?" I said, "You know what, man, I gotta drive the bus around anyway. I'll let you guys in, you know, but you have to be cool." And he's like, "Yeah, absolutely." So he brought 2 other guys and 5 girls. And I was like, "Oh,
That's a
okay."
good ratio.
Right. And I was like, this guy's got, this guy either's got money or he's somebody. So
Right.
let's see what's up. So at the time, a lot of people didn't know, but we actually had cameras up on the bus. So down in the cockpit was completely cut off from the upstairs. So you had a driving cockpit where you had a captain's chair in the front for the driver. And then on the right of you, you had your passenger. So there was about a good 2 feet of open space between you. And that's where we used to keep like our prizes that we would give away. And right above us was a latch, you know, and with a ladder attached to the wall, so you could actually climb up to the second floor and go to the, you know, the passenger level through the inside of the cockpit. Otherwise, you'd have to go around the bus. So a lot of the people didn't know, but there was actually cameras up on top, you know, in the different rooms because we had to observe what was going on up there. So
You said different rooms?
yeah, so because you had the front,
Camera
because you had the front, you had the front where they had the big Ford recliner chairs, the couch, and then you had the hallway where the wet bar was because there was a bar in
Hallway.
there too. Then you had the
golly.
bathroom. There was no camera in the bathroom, and then there was the back room.
Yeah.
And the back room, so each room was contained. It had closed doors, so it was like Star Trek style, man. You push the button, and the door would like
Oh my
open and close.
That's
So,
tight.
That's just dope.
so it was a
like
sick
that.
bus. It's something I had never seen before. All the radios in them were Bang & Olufsen, so you'd wave your hand over the the doors and they would slide
That's
open.
dope.
That's the first time I learned about
Dude, I
Bang &
remember
Olufsen.
as a kid, I used to go up to the bus and get the bumper stickers.
Right.
I used to get so hyped about that
Yeah,
shit.
give away
As a
stickers.
little kid.
Yeah, give away the pencil packs. and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
the pencil
Yeah,
pack,
come on.
all that
telling you,
shit.
I'm old school, bro.
Wait,
So-
but how much did he offer to pay you?
He offered me $300, to drive him around
and that
for
was
about
good
30
for
minutes.
That,
And that's
for
good
that,
money
at
at
that
the-
time.
But
30
Yeah.
minutes.
I didn't take the money because I didn't want it to get back that somebody bribed me to drive him around. I did it on my own accord, and I was gonna drive around anyway. So I've always been a businessman, but at the same time,
You're a
this
smart
guy when he
man.
came in with certain girls and the way he was dressed, told
You
me to
want
be
more than just
be
the
cool
money.
to this guy.
Yeah.
Because you didn't want short term
Yeah,
Yeah.
gratification.
just-
You want to build something with him. Is that the
right,
that was-
but I didn't know at the time.
You didn't
But
know
I
at the
had
time.
an inkling of that's where it might have gone.
got you.
So we started driving around, and again, they think they're up there alone, not realizing I could see everything. So they're first all in the front partying, like kind of dancing. I told them how to turn on the radio. I picked up the limo phone. Back then, it was a white phone, and you push a button, and then, you could tell your driver, oh, turn left here or park here. So I would let them know, hey, this is how you turn on the radio. Go ahead and jam out. I'm just going to be driving around. But be careful. Don't stand up too much because if I make turns, one of you guys is going to eat shit. So they're like, oh, okay. So they're partying in the front, and they're, white people trying to dirty dance. So it's, right.
I could
No
see it.
disrespect. I'm sure there's white people out there can dance.
Off
I've seen it,
rhythm
but
and-
these guys were dancing. It's funny. So anyway,
Looking
then this one guy breaks away with the chick, walks to the back,
Yeah.
and I'm like, So of course I put the camera on the back, and yeah, sure enough, like he gets her in the back, starts talking to her, she strips for him, and next thing you know, she's singing right into the microphone. So I'm trying to keep it PG.
Fuck that.
So
Nothing
awesome.
is safe.
There's nothing to say.
Yeah,
but,
she was doing full on opera, homie.
Damn.
So I was like, damn, all right. They're drinking in the front. We're driving around. So I call up on the phone about 20 minutes later. I'm like, hey, guys, we're going back. So whoever's having fun, wrap it up.
Wrap it
So,
up. Too late.
So you
So
got
you didn't have
4
to pull out
minutes.
the black light, right?
Hey.
After
Nah,
they
man,
let you
what-
under-
she took care of it.
That's
She
awesome.
didn't leave no mess.
She's a soldier.
Yeah.
Clap it up for her.
She was a hero.
Shout out for her for leaving no mess.
So anyway, it turns out that the guy that originally walked up to me was Brian Viscuso, who's the owner's brother, and the guy that was in the back, I won't say who, but let's just say that he was related to the guy I became friends with. And from there, he's all, hey man, if you want to come into the club and come party with me, he's all, come in. I'm like, I can't leave the bus alone, and I'm 20, I can't come in yet. He's like, oh yeah, that's right. So then I would go back a couple times and with the bus and other stuff, and I created a relationship with this guy. And then he's all, you seem like you know a lot of people, man. And I'm all, I do. I'm born and raised here. He's all, if I give you some passes, he's all, will you pass them out for me? Get, like you can see we're already packed, but I'm looking for quality, like women and guys that dress nice. He's all, I'll pay you for every person that comes in. And I was like, all right. And so he gave me a box, and it had about 500 of the VIP cards, and it got you and one guest in for free, and it got you front of the line. So it was a great, the card to have was gold because those lines were ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I got him out, and the first time that I had people go in, I had a little under 300 cards come back.
Wow.
So so he was paying me about $10 a card.
Shit.
So he's all like,
Hey,
3 G's
yeah,
on me?
he's all. So when all the cards came back, he did the count. He's all. I had to ask my cashier if this was right, and I'm all, why? He's all, because I know you couldn't come down here because you're not 21. You can't get past my guards. And I asked my guards if you were handing cards out to people in the line, and everybody said no, that you were inside the bus the whole time on the radio, because I was keeping in contact with the radio station. And
Smart.
yeah, and
That's hella smart.
and he was all like, so do you really know this many people? I'm like, I know a lot of people, dude, but I know people that know people, and they bring their friends.
Right.
He's all, well, so
world
I
of
wasn't
business.
expecting to pay you this much, and I was like, I'll make you a deal. I'm all, pay me half or $2,000 of it, and then when I become 21, take care of my drinks. So yeah, I'll take care of you. I don't drink, but I wanted to take care of people that would hang out with me.
Nice.
Got you.
So I saw,
Look at
you know,
him.
I already saw it.
Man,
You
Los,
know,
you a smart motherfucker.
Well,
you know that?
that's the thing though, man. Like, let's say we're all hanging out together.
Yeah.
You know, I want to build a tab up because I want you to look fresh too. Because there's
Yeah.
that chick over there, and you want to look, you know, on point. You're like, hey girl, I
And
got
he's
you
a
some
six
drinks.
man point guard.
Yeah,
dope.
absolutely, man. Because even though I don't drink, I want all my boys to shine. Because you know, one of us is trying to go home with some ass, man. You know,
Hey, that's the real
better
thing.
one of us than none of us. That's
Yeah.
how I would say it. If I try to
ain't
holler
no
at a girl
fun.
and she was like wasn't feeling me, but she was looking at my boy, I'd be like, "Pff, okay.
A win's a win. So, I mean,
Yeah, I was never butthurt.
I just want to hear a story.
Yeah.
The morning after, please.
No, I was the creeper, bro. I'd be like, open the door. I'd be like, I see you.
I did that.
is everyone all right
You
in
did
there?
that?
No.
Oh, I was
I'm saying
about to
he's
say.
like.
Because
I
then I'd be
did
like,
that.
damn, I'm glad I didn't do that, man. She's gross. So by doing that, these guys partied with me one time at East Street Alley. I was in an area of my own. And it wasn't back then. The bottle service didn't exist, but it was technically a VIP area.
No.
Super hot in the club, overpacked. Back then, people could smoke in the venue, so you know, smoke everywhere. These two guys approached me and said, "Hey, man, like, do you own this place or what?" I'm like, "Nah, I just kind of work here." And they're like,
Kinda
"Dude,
work
like,"
here.
and they're like,
Kinda.
Can we sit with you? Please, man. It's like we can't find nowhere to sit." And at first, I was like, "Nah," but they look like cool dudes.
Mhm.
So I was like, "Yeah, man, come on." And they're like, "Oh man, dude, this is awesome." This and the waitress come by. "Oh, do you guys need anything?" And I'm like, "Do you guys want something to drink?" And they're like, "Yeah." So the waitress brought them, and they were pulling out their cash, and I'm like, "Nah, it's good. Just give her a tip." You know, and they're like, "So you
Blown away,
don't own this
like,
place?" And I was like, "Nah,
what?
man, I just kind of work here."
You sound like a drug dealer.
So then the next day, you know, so let me tell you the rest of the story. So these guys are like, you know, tripping out. We're having a good time. And I introduced them to some girls, you know, and one of the girls, she did softcore porn, and I already knew that. And my boy kept asking me about her.
That
So
Cinemax porn.
so yeah, so we all started partying. We left afterwards. You know, one of my boys got hooked up. The other one got halfway home, you know, so they both had a good time.
Right,
I dipped out about 4 a.m, went home, went to sleep, and then back then, you know, I had a cell phone, but it was like, you know, Sony Ericsson. It was a cheapy phone, and it just kept going off, and it was one of the guys, and he's all, Carlos. He's all, "Where you at?" I'm like, "I'm at home, bro. I've only been asleep like 4 hours." He's all, "I need you guys to meet me at Mission Beach. I need you to meet me at Mission Beach at 10 a.m. And I'm all,
10 a.m.?
"Mission Beach?" I'm all, "Did you get stranded?" He's like, "No, please, you have to meet me there. You're like, promise me you're gonna be there." I said, "All right, cool." So I went to Mission Beach at the roller coaster.
Yeah.
And it was the two guys. One's name was Frank. The other one was Hoyt. And cool white guys, yeah, the super white boy name, Hoyt.
Straight up. Lieutenant.
But so I went over there and met him, and I was talking to Frank, and he was telling me, "Dude, man, we had a dope ass time. Thank you for last night." He's all, "Hoyt hooked up with that chick," and I'm like, "Yeah, I figured, you know." And he's all, "Man, that's awesome. We had a great time with you, bro. We were tripping out on how many people were saying hi to you and all the girls you knew. So you said you don't own the club, but we figured, what do you do?" And I told him, "Well, I'm kind of a promoter. I hadn't become a full promoter yet. That's why I really didn't start promotions yet. I was just helping out the venue
Oh.
because I had built relationships with Brian. It was actually like I was helping out the venue, but I hadn't started Impact Productions yet. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I was considered an in-house promoter, but I was more of a host. I would take care of people, get them in. I got paid for it. You know what I mean? Really, promoters really didn't exist back then. So it was more of a host. So anyway, so as me and Frank are talking about the night before, I see Hoyt walking up, and I'm seeing him with this bad chick. And I'm like, "Damn, dude, who's that? How come she wasn't with us last night?" Damn, she's fly. And as she got closer, I realized it was Carmen Electra.
Carmen Electra.
Yeah, because back then she was on MTV.
That's dope.
Yeah.
So he introduced it and said, "Hey, we're doing a show down here. You know, it's a dating show. It's when it just started."
yeah.
Singled out, right?
Yeah.
Singled out.
And he's all, and he's
I
all,
remember that as a
we're
kid.
we're casting directors. We're also going to be doing the Rock and Jock baseball. Yeah.
Yo.
So
Hey, was
they're like,
DJ? Hey, was
so
DJ
he's all-
Scribble there?
Yeah. So
DJ Scribble
DJ
too?
Scribble,
Oh,
LL Cool J,
man.
Snoop
my
Dogg.
God.
So anyway, so he says, "Hey, we're going to do the Rock and Jock here, and we need somebody that already knows how to get into the venues and knows people. We'd like to hire you as a freelancer to come work with us."
That's
And
dope.
so I
Come
originally,
up.
so that's how I started with MTV. I started with those two guys. They introduced me to the producers and the directors, and then after like they saw the people that I got in and like how I helped out on the show, they offered me a contract with them, and then that's how I started doing stuff with MTV.
Man, so
That's
you just
so
seizing a lot of
dope,
opportunities,
yeah.
bro.
Absolutely, you know what I mean.
Off of gut
It's
feelings,
but here's the thing
intuition.
though, and I'm telling everybody, always be cool, because say hello to the guy at the front door. Say hello to the guy that's in the bathroom hooking you up with the cologne. Say hello to the guy that's picking up the drinks, because you know what? They're not always going to be doing that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying do something to get something in the end, but you know what? Kindness goes a long way.
You just never
And
know.
shaking
who you-
people's hands, and people remember that shit.
Yep.
Yep.
And a lot of people that are big time in the industry now, I remember when they were guards, when they were barbacks, when when they were promoters, and now they own these venues or run them. And I've never treated them different. I've always treated everybody the same. If you disrespect me, then I'll treat you like a clown. But if you're always cool with me,
Yeah.
I'm always on point. And that's the thing, because I let those guys in and party with me because they seem like cool dudes. That opened a whole other door for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I took it. And that's the funny thing. I wasn't married. I didn't have kids. And like you said, like, what was I going to lose? And at the time, like I said, like, when I started this, my father saw it very differently, because he grew up in a very old school tradition where, like,
Hard
a man
work
should,
pays off.
well, not really, yes, but he also believed that a man should know a trade, because he felt
Right.
that either you're a mechanic, some type of craftsman, welder, whatever, like either school or trade. That's how he grew up. So when I was doing all this stuff, he didn't understand how I was making money or getting paid. He didn't see the opportunity. But that's because he didn't realize that's the direction we were going as a society, with
Yeah.
MTV.
You were breaking into the information age before you became the information
Right,
age.
I was breaking into, just hospitality, guerrilla marketing, hand to hand. When MySpace came out, even before MySpace, Fiverr, all of this stuff, so you kind of just grow with it, and that's the funny thing. Here I am at the age of 40, but yet I'm more seasoned and more adept to technology than most of these young guys, because I saw it from the get-go, and
Yeah.
I know what works with what,
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the conversation we were having a little earlier when we were talking about marketing. If you know how to market, it's a foundation. You just need the structure. Like, once you communicate with the other person what they need or what you're trying to build, it all comes together. But you need to have the ability to build it. So it's all, as long as you're good at what you do and you can build it. And that's the thing. I'm good at marketing. I'm good at promotion. I'm good at communication.
I've seen that. Your track work speaks for itself.
So I love talking to people, man. And that's the thing, is you never know who you're gonna talk to. Even at the age of 40, man, I'll talk to a 17-year-old. He might say something, I'll be like, holy shit, I didn't even look at it like that.
Right, right.
That's a good look. You can learn from anybody.
That's real.
Yes.
So
That
just
is
have to be
definitely
open-minded.
real. Stay open-minded.
Man, I
Shoot,
feel like I'm dominating this conversation, man.
Nah,
Anybody
man,
want to
this
say
is
anything?
awesome.
This
This is awesome, man. You had the information.
Man, I
mean,
feel like
I mean,
It's a
are
dope
you? Are
story.
you?
I
good
I
on
gotta
your
get
time?
going in a few minutes. I actually have a
All
venue
right.
that I have to activate.
Oh, okay. So,
okay.
just a couple. You had anything else?
Well, I just wanted to ask about the Who's Your Daddy energy drink.
So, Who's Your Daddy
situation.
Energy Drink? Yes, it was actually started by two entrepreneurs here in San Diego, locals. They both went to Patrick Henry.
Patriots.
Right, so great guys. Well, one of them in particular is a really great guy. The other one's an asshole. So I really shouldn't put him in the same group. But Dan Fleischman is
Nothing
still a
is
very good
safe.
friend of mine. He actually is a very powerful influencer now.
Yeah.
If you guys look up Dan Fleischman, DanFleishman, you will see him pop up all over Google, Twitter, Instagram, because he is a positive influencer. I mean, he writes books on how to build businesses. When those hoverboards first came out,
Yeah.
he was smart to get on the social media influencers, and he took a percentage of a company by saying, look, I'm not going to give you any money, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take X amount of percentage, and I'm going to help grow your market. And for every 1,000 or 2,000 I sell, you're going to give me more of the company, up to 25%.
Damn.
So he took their sales of 200, 300 a month to 2,000, 3,000 a week.
Damn.
Wow.
So, he made a lot of really good money on that.
Get that money.
Yeah.
Get that money.
So, that's the thing. The thing is, everybody thinks all the time that it takes money to make money, and it really doesn't. It takes creativity to help grow money, make money. You know what I mean? Like, you could start with nothing, but if as long as you know how to flip it and work it from other people. But anyway, so Who's Your Daddy? They ended up going bankrupt. If anything, one of the owners got involved with some devious people. If you Google it, you can actually see that one of the people that they were involved with was throwing money out on the 5 freeway, about $300,000,
Yo.
because the DEA and the Border Patrol was chasing him.
Damn.
I don't really want to get into big details, but
Yeah,
if you guys
yeah.
Google it, you can
Oh, yeah,
find
yeah,
out all
yeah,
about
yeah,
it.
Do your Googles.
So
audience.
anyway, so my boy had to close shop. He actually used to own a store here in downtown called Platinum Collections, and he had to close it down because I was actually in Italy on my honeymoon when I got a phone call from the DEA
Damn.
saying, "Is this Carlos Martinez?" And I was like, "Yep." And they're like, "Oh, well, my name is so and so. I'm with the DEA." And I was like, all right,
Click.
what's
I'm
up?
just kidding.
No, I was like, what's going on? So we just want to let you know that this went down in San Diego, and that we'd like to talk to you when you come back. And they're like, so we just want to let you know that. So when do you plan on coming back? And I'm all, so you said already that you knew I was out of the country. I forgot to mention that. He's all like, we saw
So
that
you have my itinerary.
yeah.
So
So they knew where I already was.
Yeah.
So you know when I'm coming back. So why are you even asking me that?
Yeah.
So of course they can't cross international lines without permission. Without the right documentation. You can't extradite unless you get it. For it. But I was coming back home. I had nothing to do with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even when I got back home, I was never bothered. I never got another phone call again. But when I went back, both warehouses were completely gone. Everything was taken out. All the stuff that on my computer was missing because my computer was gone.
yeah, you had you guys had all that shit. I remember going in there. You guys had like a motorcycle, all this art deco shit. It was
Right.
pretty cool.
Well, I mean,
pretty cool.
You had the truck.
yeah, I used to drive the Hummer.
The Hummer truck.
Hummer,
Yeah, I
bro.
remember that.
But that's the thing. You guys saw the Mission Valley office. We actually got bigger when we went to Carlsbad. And that's when things just went downhill.
Damn.
So, yeah, that's the thing, though. I've always been a part of startups. I like to help people grow their business. But that's the risk you take. You know what I mean? Like, your future's in somebody else's hands.
You should write a script.
It was another thing before you have to go. I know lately you've been on your fitness tip,
Right.
and I'm loving what I'm seeing, man. So, what made you decide, like, you know what, fuck it, dude, I'm tired of this shit. I'm gonna go ahead and do it. What? I mean, because I think everyone when they hit their transformations, their journey to their transformation stage, you always have that rock bottom part. You always have that brick wall. What was that moment you were just like, this shit ain't cool. I gotta.
So that's the funny thing. Again, like I commented to you guys earlier before I turned on the mics, I don't smoke, I don't drink, I've never done drugs. I've never looked down on it. I don't put down people about it. I don't judge people. You live your life as you please.
Yeah.
It's just not for me.
Yeah.
And people that were my friends never tried to push it on me. They never tried to,
No peer pressure?
yeah, no peer pressure. My real friends never
dope.
pressured me
Okay.
because they understood
Yeah.
me. Other people that didn't know me, I used to have, girls would be like, oh, you don't drink. I bet you if I do this to you or if I let you do this, like you'll take a shot. And I'm like,
No.
nah. I'm good. And I'm all, like if you think my integrity is worth some ass, then something's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Let them know.
Bruh.
So anyway, with that being said, I've always been strong in who I am. Like I was a thin kid, and then I became a beefy kid. From the 9th to 10th grade, I actually went from 5'6" to 6'2" in one summer.
Damn, son.
Damn.
Yeah, I stretched out 6 inches
like
one
a
summer.
motherfucker.
And you don't realize how tall you're getting because you're growing in front of your family, and they see you every
Yeah.
day. But when I went back to school and saw all my friends, and I saw that I was 4 inches
Looking
taller
at
than
the
them,
top of their heads.
yeah, and they're like, "Holy shit!" And I was like, "I guess I grew," and then but I've always been a big guy, and then I've always been comfortable in my skin. It's never prevented me from having a good time, from talking to girls, or from getting the jobs that I wanted because I'm
That's
just
good.
confident in nature.
That's good.
That's just who I am.
That's awesome.
There's that borderline between cocky and confidence. I feel that I'm right in the middle, because I have to be cocky to be a promoter because that's what it takes to build your brand. And you have to be confident because if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will.
Exactly.
So, I had to take those characters to develop what I want to be. Carlos and Big Los are completely different people in that sense that Big Los is a brand that I built in downtown, and that's how people perceive me. Carlos is a father, a son, a brother, and that Big Los shit doesn't fly at home. My sister and all that, at home I'm Carlitos, So it's a whole other, and that's the thing, and that you have to know that. So with that being said, people would always make comments, my mom, typical mom. Yeah, Carlos, you're getting too fat. Te estás viendo panzón, like that. My dad would make comments, my sisters, and you'd be like, do I tell you to stop drinking? Do I tell you to stop smoking? Do I tell you this and that?
Right.
Quit bothering me.
Yeah.
Like I'm happy the way I am. It's not like I'm sitting cheeseburgers all day. I'm just fat. I'm a big guy.
Right.
If I was sitting there just eating cookies the whole damn day on the couch,
Then
I could
that's
see them having
understandable.
worries.
Yeah.
But it's just I ate like shit at the wrong hours. When you're getting home from the nightclub at 2-3 in the morning, you're not trying to grill.
And your sleeping
chicken.
habits are all.
Yeah,
all over
you're
the
not trying to grill
place.
chicken. You're not trying to cook fish.
Right.
You're not trying to make
And
quinoa,
steamed
brown rice.
vegetables.
You're picking up a fucking burger or a burrito, man. This is San Diego, bro. You're getting a fucking
Taco
California
shop.
burrito.
Yeah.
Carne asada
real.
fries. Yo, come on, man.
That's real.
Hey.
So, I just ate bad shit at the wrong hours,
Yeah.
and also because I got so busy, I would only eat once a day, and it impacted me where I gained more weight. So anyway, what changed it for me, what did it for me is once I had my sons,
Oh, okay.
And my sons never said anything to me. You know, they're small. You know, they just see daddy. You know, they know dad's bigger than other dads, but they've never said, "Oh, daddy, you're fat" or nothing. There's, you know, my 4-year-old, he doesn't understand. What did it is that when he turned 2, he started going faster and faster, running. And I was at the park, and instead of playing with him, I was watching him play. And that's what did it for me. I'm like, am I going to be that dad? Am I going to just sit here and watch my son have a good time? And he's going to say, hey, let's do this. And I'm all out of breath and shit. And, you know, I made these kids and now they're my responsibility. Am I going to like end up having a heart attack because, you know, I want to keep eating my donuts and eating carne asada burritos at 2 a.m? So that's what did it for me. You know, I realized that if I wanted to be a good example or be the father I wanted to be, the change had to start with me.
Right.
So
Man,
that's what did it.
That's real, man.
So it wasn't like hitting rock bottom. It wasn't like where I was sitting in my room with a fucking bucket full of ice cream crying into it. None of that. It was at the park, Balboa Park to be exact, and I'm watching my son play, and I'm like, why am I not playing with him? Why am I not going down the slide with him? Why am I just sitting here on my phone and watching him?
Right.
Yeah.
So that was the first step. I got off my ass and I started playing with him. And then I realized I was out of breath. And I'm like, okay, time to do something.
Yeah.
Do
Gotta
something
make a
about it.
change.
Yeah.
Take action.
So then that's when it came into play, you know, and I lost 65 pounds the first time, but then I got really caught up with work, working 16-hour days, and I had to make a choice when I got off of work, go work out or go be with my family.
Oh, man.
So I made the decision to be with my family. I gained 45 pounds back, and now I got back into it, and I'm already down in 45 pounds again.
Nice.
So, yeah, this time I'm going to stick with it. You know, there's nothing in my way anymore.
Yeah, just
you
got to
know?
find ways how to integrate it. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean?
You know, you have to make sacrifices.
Yeah.
So, and I made that. So,
All right. But yeah, man, I don't want to hold you up any longer because I know you got venues, you're a busy man, and I just want to thank you for taking your time out of your busy schedule just to chat it up with all just small-time podcasters at the moment.
nah,
But
man, I
don't
appreciate
think
you
we
guys.
Small time, man.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me. I'm sorry that I dominated the conversation. I'm sure you guys
No,
probably have other questions.
I enjoyed it. I
Nah,
enjoyed it.
nah.
Enjoyed the
Yeah.
stories. It was
You dropped a lot of gems.
you dropped
man.
mad
Yeah.
gems. You know what I mean? It was more like it was kind of like a
It's inspirational.
inspirational.
Yeah.
Got a
But-
cool stories, and it's like, damn, I got
Yeah,
it.
like-
I got to grind harder now.
Yeah.
I got to, you know what I mean?
You
So-
still have
And-
people like from over the globe listening to it. So
See,
Yeah.
and that's
This
the
will be
thing, though.
good.
And I'll tell you guys this: even with all my successes, and at one point, you know, in different parts of your life, especially when you're a success, your head gets swollen, and sometimes you get kicked in the nuts. And remember to be humble.
right.
But there was a time when I first got out of the nightlife industry, I thought to myself, you know what? I'm king shit. I'm good at marketing, promotions. Who wouldn't want to hire me, or who wouldn't want to have me on their team? And you know, everybody always says, "Oh, when one door closes, another one opens." That's the biggest crock of shit because it doesn't. I had 100 doors slam in my face before I had to kick down another one. You know, and I began to question myself. I started questioning my skill sets, my experience, you know, my abilities, because it seemed like everywhere I was applying, you know, they wanted a pedigree, they wanted that formal education, and I only got my associates because I started working for MTV, and everybody that worked for me at MTV had a degree. And I'm like, why am I going to go back to school if these guys that have degrees and they work for me?
Yeah.
You know, so I let it, like, that's what I was talking about. I let things get to me, you know? And a lot of doors weren't open, you know, because I felt that I should be paid this much because that's how much I was making, not realizing that I didn't have that experience that they needed to get paid
Yeah.
that much. So,
Kinda
again,
humble yourself.
I got another lesson in humbling myself and realizing who really had my back, who's really my support, and it helped me look within. And that's why I'm back at school. I'm at UCSD. You know, I'm taking my project management. That's why I'm involved in 2 major marketing businesses. You know, because I'm down to help somebody else build their brand and grow their brand because they don't realize that, yeah, it may not be mine, but I'm still getting paid to do it. And the resources and all the shit that I'm learning from them and all the tools that I'm taking from them is going to benefit me more than what they're going to pay me, because what I want to do for myself in the next 2 years, I'm learning from all their mistakes and from all their good and their bad. And I'm the one developing all the relationships. So when it's time for me to branch out on my own again, I know this time all it's going to take is a phone call. You know,
Yeah.
because I've built that friendship, that relationship.
That's what I was gonna ask. So what is Carlos doing exactly right? And the reason why I asked is because, well, the boys know I suck at doing homework and doing research. So when they said you were coming, I was like, well, I heard the name, but I didn't really know too much about you. They're like, yeah, do your research. So I went to try to search you on IG and it was private, and I'm like, wait, so is he a promoter or did he just used to be a promoter? So like I couldn't do my research, so I'm learning a lot right now.
So yeah, I kept it private for a reason because once my sons kind of came into play, you know, I didn't want to have a bunch of weirdos. If you actually open up my IG, you'll see that I have like 400 requests, you know, because I don't add just everybody.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know, I started becoming more private. You know, the funny thing about that again is because I work in the limelight, but my personal life, it's always been personal. You know, who I am in downtown is not the same guy that I'm at home. That's what I'm saying. You have to learn to separate that shit. Don't take your work home with you. And so anyway, I do marketing now on a national level. So I help companies like do experiential event marketing. So you guys know experiential marketing on the lowest level in the sense that you guys have all been to Costco, Sam's Club.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, and you've been there on those days where they have you sample the food?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So you're not realizing it, but by experiencing the food and not just seeing it behind a glass door, you know, in the cooler or seeing it there, by having you try it, you're experiencing it. So now you've become a customer where you're like, man, that was really good. I'm going to buy the 20 pounds of chicken right now.
Right.
Oh, I need those 8 pounds of grapes. They're delicious. So you experienced their product because they hooked you up. They gave it to you for free. So that's a low form of experiential event marketing, hence the name experiential, you know, because you experienced it. So that's a low end. You know, if you look at a lot of these big companies, you know, when I say big companies, I mean conglomerates like Xbox, Sony, you know, when South by Southwest or even now EDC, Samsung had one of the biggest tents out there. So they had the Oculus, they had their phones, they just showing the newest technology. So guess what you're doing? You're experiencing it. You're playing with it. They're educating you on it because guess what? When it comes out next year, you're going to be like, that shit was dope.
Yep.
I want that.
Yep.
So you're getting to experience the brand. They're going to hook you up with it, but at the same time, they're making you a consumer. So that's what experiential event marketing kind of is. You create experiences for people, but with a return of investment.
Nice.
So a lot of these companies, they don't know how to target certain demographics where they know, hey, we want to hit this Hispanics, well, we want to hit 19 to 24, 21 to 25.
That's where you
And
come in.
right. So they kind of know how to do it, but they don't know how to do it the way it should be done. You know, since I have the more the street level marketing, the more engagement, like I'll be like, just hand me the program.
Yeah.
And I'll do the recaps. I'll tell you what I did, and I'll map it out for you. So that's what I do. I create, you know, plans for people and
Blueprints.
right. So that's what I do, you know, now, and I do it for 2 different companies. I really can't say the brands, but they're billion-dollar brands. One that I wish I kind of wasn't affiliated with, but it is what it is. Yeah. And the other ones are like liquor, you know, like Bacardi, you know, and stuff like that. And then there's also like video games, you know, like when the Xbox 360, it's the Xbox One, first came out. You know, I did a 7 city tour marketing for them. And at the end, I finished it with the performance by Deadmau5, and we gave away 100 Xbox Ones.
Man, you are living the life.
So that's what I'm saying. So, you know, I've done stuff like that.
That's
That's
dope.
all- that's
That is
living
so
the
dope.
life.
That's what I'm doing now. So
Should write a
that's why I'm
movie,
going to
man.
school for project management, because I want to take it to another level. And that's why I'm doing it with these companies, because I'm building relationships with all these companies. So the day I decide to branch out on my own, I can reach out to the vice president of marketing of Sony and say, hey, I know you guys been doing work with this company, but I'm the one that was doing it in San Diego. As you know, I'd appreciate if I got the contract or had the opportunity to make a proposal to get the contract for San Diego and Orange County.
Well, I know you're gonna try to take
Right.
that advantage for Comic-Con. I know for
So,
sure.
so that's the thing, you know what I mean?
know
So
for sure, you
so
know.
that's kind of what I'm doing, you know what I mean? And the funny thing is that, like again, like I said, I'm 40, but because of that people I hang out with or that, you know, the position I put myself, like I don't age myself, you know what I mean? You'd see it in my beard because of my gray and shit, but
That's just wise.
that's the thing
Yeah.
though, you know,
Right
like
there.
you know, you have to stay relevant. You have to stay on top of everything. You know what I mean? Like you have to keep your finger on the pulse.
Good shit.
See, it's a shout out to Los not being one of those old heads stuck in their ways.
You know, absolutely not.
And
No.
refusing to-
No.
Yeah, you adapt, and that's what the survival
Absolutely.
is. It's not the survival of the fittest or the smartest, but the one who adapts the best. And you just display a great example of that. And like
We
I said, Los, I
appreciate
don't want to
you,
hold you
man.
up any longer. We do appreciate you coming
Yes.
down here. We enjoyed
man.
all the knowledge we absorbed and the great stories, and I hope the audience enjoys it too.
Hope you learned something
No,
from it.
thank you guys very much. I appreciate you guys having me here. Thank you.
All right, Liz.
All right. You guys have a good night. I got to get off to work and go check out a
Alright.
venue.
All right,
That's what's
I'll
up.
let
All
you
right,
go
bro.
ahead. That's Big Los, everybody. Thank you.
Big love.
That's a clap.
Buenos nachos.
Nachos.
Nachos. Eh?
All right.
Got
And on that note, we're just gonna go ahead and just give it a little break. This episode is also brought to you by K Cuts. Now we know that summer 16 is here, fellas, so it's time to get freshened up. And you go ahead and call and make that appointment at area code 619-582-KUTZ. Once again, that's area code 619-582-KUTZ. All right. So, man,
excuse
so what do
you.
you think of that Los interview, man?
That was dope, man.
Yeah, I'm inspired, man.
Yeah.
I'm about to go
Inspired.
sell drugs. No, I'm
Man, I'm just like, man.
you let them try the
It just
product,
make me
dog.
feel bad, like when I go back home, like, damn, my life is lame as a motherfucker. I need to make some
Nah,
shit happen.
I don't know.
But I mean,
Hey,
no,
look,
not like
check
talking
it
about
out.
bad about my life, but just being inspired. Like, man, I know I could do some shit too,
Yeah.
man. I gotta make
You
this
can
shit
LOA.
happen.
Well, check it out.
LOA.
Like, look at what
Definitely.
you're doing right now. What
Yep.
are we doing right now?
We podcasted.
We started this from nothing, right?
Yeah.
Just from an idea, like, yo.
Yep.
So everybody is listening, like,
Marco's idea.
Marco put this together for the most
Yes.
part. Like, this is what he started. So
This is his baby.
this is just a
This is
glimpse
baby.
of what you can,
Yeah.
what's in the future.
And
Yeah.
you
This is
did,
a
and you
taste.
did say that you had a list of people
Yeah.
that you want as guests, and you're starting to check them off.
Yeah, I'm starting to check them off.
I'm just
You know what I mean?
saying.
Yep.
And like I said, I mean,
And
no
this was a good
offense.
one.
The people that I bring over, if people who live in the San Diego area know these motherfuckers are heavy hitters in the city,
Yeah.
and that's why people be
So-
asking me like, "Who's this? Who's that?" Like, dude, trust me, I know my shit.
Trust me.
So
Say what you can.
even though you felt you felt that in your mind, like, man, compared to that, my life is kind of lame. But he's lived for a little longer.
yeah, a little
Yeah.
And at
longer.
the same time, you set some goals,
yeah.
and you've been checking them
Yeah.
off the list.
Yep.
That is
Yep.
true. So I
Yep.
got to celebrate the small victories
Yes.
as well.
Yeah,
Bruh,
man.
because
Exactly.
they become
man.
snowball effect. So
Yeah, snowball effect. But anyway, man, I know the end of last episode we were talking about getting a little lit out there in LA. So I went on tour with
yes.
Miss Nessa.
Howdy.
yeah, guest starring
Talking about
Easy.
I'm the headliner.
Uncensored
Woo!
tour.
What?
Yeah.
What? The jig is up.
Marco and
The
Nessa
Jig Is Up
and
tour.
friend.
Nessa's the
I-
headliner.
You know, I was in town. I was a special guest.
Yeah, shout out to Tasha
Tasha.
Tosh Bobain.
And
Blazing Dog.
and Blazing
My
Dog.
blazing,
Y'all
my
were hella
blazing
lit.
sister from another mister.
Me and Ness were worrying about
Just
if we
like-
could have that
Oh,
level
that
of energy.
energy.
Like,
Oh,
Yeah.
God damn, they lit.
for
And then once we
real.
made that turn, I was like, wait a minute, that's them outside in the car. Oh,
They
shit.
was
lit,
waiting
lit.
for
Homie,
us.
Ladies
Homie.
and gentlemen,
Homie, as soon as I got out the car, as soon as we got out the car,
Yep.
Marcus, you need to take some shots.
Had to play catch up.
I had to play
Man.
catch up.
you
So
know
I'm
what,
a
ladies and
lightweight.
gentlemen,
It's-
I missed this part.
it's
I
funny
didn't call off of work.
It's funny because Shonda, like, we've known each other through social media for a minute now, for a few years, and she didn't know I didn't drink. So I don't go out all the time, but when I do, you may catch me with a cup in my hand. But those that know me knows what's in my cup. And it's usually
got a double cup?
cranberry. It's usually cranberry on
lean?
the rocks, or a mixture of cranberry and pineapple juice with a twist of lime. Like, I've been
And
making it
other
look pretty.
flavors.
So she was all excited, like, oh yeah, I gotta play catch up. I'm like, oh, I don't drink.
Catch up.
And they're like, what? Marco's like, yeah, Nessa don't
Turn
drink.
face.
And Shonda was like, "Ugh." Like, you can tell she was kind of like,
Bummed out.
yeah,
Buzz
like-
Killington.
exactly.
Womp, womp,
But I mean, we
womp.
ended up having a good ass time. It
I
was to the
know.
point where Mark almost thought about playing hooky.
Look, check it out.
I was fucking with him though. I was on Snapchat. I'm all like a little faded.
Snapchat was lit
I was like,
this weekend.
Nigga, ditch work, come
Bruh,
on.
I was at
Getting
work.
hit up by
I was,
all of us.
yeah, I was getting ready to pick up my phone and act like I had a
Emergency.
emergency call. Like, what was that? You need me to go right now? I'm on my way. So I
back
was gonna do it in
signal.
front of my manager and just look at him like, yeah, I got to go. Nope, I can't tell you anything. I'll tell you when I come back and then figure it out later. But yeah, the second night I was able to come out and kick it with y'all. It was cool, man. But I'm mad because y'all went out and partied that night and turned up, but we
Yeah.
didn't get to turn up the next day because everybody
Dude,
was,
so you
know
know
leaving
they
and
coming
all that,
down
so-
here in August.
Oh, yeah,
yes, y'all.
So-
Are we
so-
ready?
saga
Is the
It's
question.
nothing, man. It's nothing.
It's
I was
nothing.
ready this
Round
past
I
week.
was
two.
born ready. You
So,
better. You
I
don't
was
even
just
have
at
to play
work.
hooky. Just call off work that entire week.
She's like, yeah, I
Ain't gonna be
need
no
my
calling
money.
off. I'm gonna tell them
Hey,
I
you
ain't
can
coming.
make money out
Yeah.
here.
Yeah,
we
you
all
go-
I'm just
know.
gonna be
Live.
busting them
What,
Uber and
tricking?
Lyft moves. That's
Yep.
it.
Got to.
Like, look, y'all, I'm not working here no more, man. I
Oh,
got some
I'm gonna have
fun
to call my
achieve.
days off in advance a little
Yep.
bit on this one. A little
This
bit.
fool,
Like,
Oh,
this
boy.
fool right
Nigga.
here.
oh man,
Hey,
you know it's
man.
gonna be lit, man.
Yes.
I might have to spend the night at Kenley's place. You know what I mean?
We
So-
all fucking. We all gonna crash a kill.
Wait,
Well, guess what?
Wait.
I'm not gonna be here though.
yeah.
you
So
know,
wait,
in
hold up,
August-
hold up.
Oh, see,
Where you
Hold up,
I
hold up.
open up Pandora's box.
Hold up. Yeah, you done fucked up now. So
What?
Yeah,
you're not gonna be here, right? Those
right.
keys, they can stay. I can
Basically-
babysit. I can.
People know
I can house it, dog.
You trust
Kmart
us.
lives.
You
in
don't
the-
realize
in the
my
heart of East
place.
Village
I
in
mean,
downtown
it's like
San
a
Diego.
fucking museum in there, so it's a lot of shit in there.
Yeah, he got a lot of pop,
Nothing illegal,
collectibles.
but it's
A
a
lot-
lot
a lot
of
of-
great shit in
a
there.
lot of loot crate shit.
Yeah,
That's the plug.
yeah, Loot
Shout out
Crate.
to the
Oh, yo,
plug,
shout out to
the
Loot Crate, man. I got an
plug.
awesome fucking t-shirt. It's a RoboCop t-shirt, and also
yep,
some
you
little
rocking it.
knickknacks over there. But man, I
He's
subscribe
rocking
to
it
that,
now.
and it's
With his
great.
wolf grays.
It's like Christmas. It's like
fives.
Christmas every month, man. So
So-
shout out to Loot Crate. Definitely gotta go.
So that's
give
your
it a
shout out
plug.
right
Oh
there?
yeah, that's definitely shout out to Loot Crate, man. So
Okay.
yeah, but about that, yeah, we got that's for next time.
Okay. So, what about
To
you,
be
Nessa?
We'll see about
any,
that.
Any parting words, Nessa?
Just shout out to my new Snapchat followers. Thanks to all of us hacking each other's Snapchats. So,
Oh, you know what?
so
Yeah, go
sorry.
ahead.
So Tosh, Shonda, Marco, and Mark over here, MEZ, we always hacking each other's Snap, and I still have a few that's pending because I have to get the approval from each person. Like, yo, like, is this your people's? Is that your people? Because I mean, like he was saying, his shit's private.
Yeah.
My Instagram may be public, but everything else is private. I'm it's not about
gotta have
numbers for
something
me,
for
so I
yourself
have
a
to
little
know
bit.
like
Mm.
I'm not just building numbers. Like I want to build relationships and
Yeah.
you know with people, especially
Look at
doing
you.
Build
this.
relationships.
Build a
Oh,
relationship.
Smart self.
I mean, you know, I
What's
got
up?
inspired by
Yeah,
Big
so-
Los. Shout out.
I don't want to forget. I want to shout out my homeboy Dan, aka Jamal.
Jamal,
Congratulations, man.
Cavs fan, got
Hashtag White Iverson.
Cavs
Hashtag-
fan. They made it through.
Yeah,
He's got
Cavs
a baby
fan,
girl, right?
Yeah, hashtag one for the Cavs, one for the town.
Yeah.
I want to congratulate him and his girl Cupid.
Oh yeah,
On that
congrats.
Congratulations,
Aw.
man.
You know, he sent me a photo today. I'm like, oh snap,
Yeah, I seen it too.
Jamal,
Snap,
you did it, my
literally.
nigga. You did it, Jamal.
Yeah, Jamal.
Post
Oh,
Malone
man.
did it.
Like I said, man, my shout out, man. I just want to thank Los for even coming
Yes,
down here. I
thank
know
you.
like he's a
Yeah.
very busy man. He has a lot on his plate. I asked him a long time ago, even before the pod even started. I was like, hey, would you be down to do a podcast with us? And he was like, be cool. So I just had to find the right time. And it's, you know, episode
Perfect.
21.
Perfect.
The age that you can
yeah,
go
the age
out,
for the
right?
club.
Like,
Go to the club.
one of the biggest promoters in San Diego.
So question.
It's crazy
so question.
how everything
okay.
like
So let's put it this way. So when you guys were
This
21,
episode's
what was the
themed
first
out.
club you went to when you were 21? Do anybody
Stingery.
remember?
I went to
I
Stingery
think
when I was 21.
whatchamacallit.
The fuck? What club
Ole
did I go to?
Madrid.
Come on.
I went to
I
I
went
went to
to
Stingery.
Stingery. Okay.
And
Marco?
and look, I lived in
21.
Joliet, Illinois. I flew out here to celebrate
Damn,
my
son.
21st.
Wow,
The
that's
fuck?
what's
I'm
up.
And
I'm
I
really trying to
didn't
think.
drink.
I'm like
I
stumped
think it
right
was
now.
Ole Madrid.
I didn't
like,
drink.
with-
It was
with
Ole
AO7.
Madrid.
I didn't drink until I
Yeah.
turned 21.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
I
it
didn't
was-
take one
it
sip
was-
or
it was
nothing.
No,
Ole
it was
Madrid.
it.
It was Ole
Oh, wait, it
Madrid,
was-
but my most memorable club
Madrid,
experience was
Mm.
Ivy Hotel.
Ivy.
Ivy.
Yeah,
when
and
I
I
was
was
23.
there.
That was awesome. But I'm gonna share that
Man,
for
that
another
was the
story
dopest.
because I know
Yes.
we got to get the fuck up out
Oh
of
yeah.
here.
Did you remember yours? What was your?
Oh,
Was
it's
it
Ole
Ole?
Madrid.
Oh,
Was
yeah,
Ole?
that
Ole
was my
Madrid?
first.
Yeah,
I never
same
went
thing.
into Ole, man.
It,
I never
it,
made
it,
in
had
there.
a leaky faucet and shit.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Didn't it
now
have like
now
a-
then it became it changes venues and that's
Yeah.
the thing about anybody who comes down to San Diego. The venues that Los named were like the original venues. Now they
Exactly.
became newer venues.
Yeah.
It's
It's
kind of like
so
that.
many
Like
now.
It's
East
kind of
Street
like it's kind of like
Alley.
that TD Boy, 2 Chainz type
Chainz,
shit
yeah.
or
Right.
Scott Hall. Razor Ramon. It's the same thing, same person,
Bruh.
name just different change.
Like East Street Alley turned
was
into
below,
and
then now it's basement, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Shout out
And
to
I went to all
Martini
three of them.
Ranch,
Martini.
and
You know.
Sin, and
Sin
Faces,
was the shit on
F6.
Thursday
and
night.
F6,
Before
and
it was
below.
18
We
and
could
up,
go all
man.
night on this, but I know, like I said, we got to go because,
You
still
gotta
got
go,
time.
gotta
Yeah.
go right now.
So I didn't. I gotta go right now.
This was a
wait,
good
fuck it.
episode for our 21.
But I
21.
gotta go
21st
now.
Y'all motherfuckers better
episode.
listen to this
We all
shit.
grown up.
Grown
Yeah,
up
get some
now.
Catch
inspiration,
up.
man. This is a grown-up episode for y'all, man.
Yeah,
Take
for
your
real.
notes.
For real,
Yes.
take notes. So if you enjoy listening to this podcast as much as we love making it, you better enjoy this shit. Because we do what we
Stupid.
love and love what we do. And if you're not being your motherfucking self, you know what I gotta say.
The
The
Jig
jig
is
is
up.
up.
And we out. Blah!
Aw, Zach, come back.
Yeah. Stay strong, bro.
Let's go eat.
Staying
What
strong,
we
my
eating?
brother.
Do your daddy duties.
Not a goddamn thing. That's not what we.
That's not what Mark said. And
Family
easy,
values.
easy, for sheezy,
Killen's
not
going
easy.
home and going to take a nap.
A nap?
I have a date with pillow and blankets.
I don't do dates in bed.
Yeah, you do it on the couch.
No. There's better on the floor.
Oh,
It's more room. There's all kinds
carpet
of floor,
muncher.
You never get enough of floor.
Carpet muncher.
Yeah, I gotta make sure that carpet's vacuumed.